Hi, this is Module 2 discussion, and trying this live to see if I can get it to upload faster instead of doing it from my webcam and then to YouTube. So let's see if this works. For Module 2 discussion, I chose to explain two categories of functional approach to leadership. Discuss how each category helps in developing a person's leadership ability. Well, there's a lot more than two when it comes to leadership approaches. I kind of like the trait approach and the functional approach. It's in our book, chapter 2, page 14. The trait approach is a leadership that suggests that there are certain psychological and communication traits as well as physical attributes that make leaders effective. They did a course of study with leadership researches and have identified intelligence, confidence, extroversion, social skills, and including communication skills, administration skills, enthusiasm, and even physical height as to some of the traits affected leader typically possessed. They found out through some research that across several cultures, the most admired qualities of a leader are honesty, being forward-looking, competence, and being inspirational. If you can do these things, you can help to influence the people you're leading in a positive way. I also like the functional approach. The functional approach to leadership, also on page 14, continued on to page 15, suggests that leaders exist to perform essential functions or behaviors that help organizations to achieve goals. Instead of going based off personality characteristics or traits, the functional approach to leadership divides the essential leadership behaviors into two categories: task functions and process functions. The two types of functions are similar to the content and relational dimensions of communication, and task functions are those leadership behaviors that help the team get the work done, such as delegating duties, facilitating meetings, making sure all employees are trained. Process functions are those behaviors that leaders engage in to maintain a harmonious climate by appropriately managing conflict and rewarding work teams when goals are reached. I think that has to be perfectly said. You delegate, you make sure everybody has their job, you make things get done, and when they get done appropriately, they're rewarded. Okay, question number 2. Discuss the different sets of leadership assumptions that impact how leaders approach motivation, and analyze how the concept of motivation is based on various principles. Cite your text and your response. Assumptions. There are a lot of different assumptions to leadership. Some people think money motivates. Page 16. Leaders assume money motivates people to perform. So leaders, by developing reward systems based on financial bonuses for a job well done. Others believe that it's not money that motivates, but how you treat people. There are 3 identified sets of leadership assumptions that influence how leaders approach motivation: classical, human relations, and human resources. Classical approach to motivation is based on the principle of reward and punishment. Put simply, leaders assume workers are motivated to work hard when they are rewarded for good work and not rewarded for poor work. The human relations assumption, also on page 16. The human relation approach to motivation is based on the assumption that people are influenced not just by power and position, but how they are treated at work. I tell my kids this all the time. You want respect, you want me to treat you kindly. You can't come at me yelling at me and expect me to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. For me, how my children treat me strongly affects my mood and what I want to either continue doing that day or how I want to treat them back, if that makes sense. The human resource assumptions, their approach to motivation assumes that in order to empower people to participate in work of an organization or team, this is on page 17, that you have to give them more control over work processes. Or this is where I think the author comes into power. If you give people more control, they feel like more powerful. Leaders motivate others by making employees partners at work and giving them more decision-making and problem-solving responsibilities, to be exact. If we go to chapter 14, what are the most important tips offered from chapter 14 that help you be a better writer? Cite your text and explain why these tips are important. Using appropriate tone and vocabulary. So writing with appropriate style is one of the ones that I think are important. Page 212, like, why am I writing this document? Who am I writing it to? What do I want them to understand? What kind of tone will complement my written message? You got to be confident. You got to be courteous and sincere in all your communication, because when people believe that you're just this, fake, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to want to do things like you. That's not how you influence people. That's not a leader that would influence. Adapt to the reader by stressing benefits and write an appropriate level of difficulty. Writing with clarity is important. That's on page 213. If the people you are writing to can't understand what you're writing, what's the point? What's the point? I I'm not taking this course because I want to learn how to write a business report that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 sections on page 223. That's not what I want to do. I want to be in a medical office. So the more basic email and memos and stuff for me, I think are very important in learning how to communicate with clients or customers. Based on the tips offered in chapter 14, what are your personal greatest strengths and weaknesses as a writer? I'm not a good writer at all. At all. I usually have a lot of grammatical errors. Sometimes I get stuck and I don't know how to get out what it is I'm trying to say. So I don't really have any great things, and I'm hoping to learn to be better, but those are my weaknesses. So I hope you guys weren't bored. I know it was long, and let's see if this live stream worked, because if it didn't, I'm going to have to do all this over. Love you guys. See you next time.